Welcome, Andy, to the Travel Runners podcast. Thank you so much for taking time. I literally just found out you have a race this weekend that you're planning and getting everything ready for. So I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast and share your story.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sorry we didn't talk about this earlier because the long play will be over when this airs. But what a great race it is! It's a single 33 and a third mile loop through Croom Forest. It's fabulous.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love all the Croom races. But now that we're on this topic, how many races do you actually have
Oh
and
my
host
gosh,
into?
a baker's dozen.
Okay.
A
Okay.
baker's
Very cool.
dozen. And it's most of them are with A1 Ultras. Amy and I together we're probably up to like 9, including a couple of charity races we do. Stomp Out Suicide and Turtle Trot are ones where all the proceeds go to charities. And then we do another Whispering Pines, which is a donation only race. And the money for that all goes to City of Inverness to improve their parks. And it's a really fun one. And then I do 4 races with Tampa Races, my partner Jim and I. And that's where I started race directing in like 2004 with Tampa Races.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I
So
knew
it's a
you
baker's
had.
dozen. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you had a few of them out there, but that's incredible. And I love that you have some that are all for like donations and, donating. That's amazing. So
Yeah,
very,
it's
very
pretty
cool. I
cool.
didn't know that.
Yeah. And of course, our signature race for A1 is the Long Haul 100, which we're going to have you at next year. We're very
Yes.
excited about that. It's so cool. Anyway, you're gonna have a blast there, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I'm sure it'll be wonderful. And
Yeah.
truly thank you again. And it's so funny. I'm just hoping that there's no mud because I was there last year when I volunteered. I'm like,
Yeah.
I hope there's no mud.
There
So
last year was just this January that we just had was the course as it was meant to be. Fast
mhm.
times. That's funny that the finish rate was almost the exact same between
Oh wow.
2024 and 2025. We had only 5 more finishers out of 300 registrants. We had 5 more finishers this year, so not a lot. But
Yeah.
sub 24 in 2024, we had 35 runners go sub 24. In 2025, we had 55 runners go. Yeah,
Wow.
so
That's
and
awesome.
it was largely a field with a lot of first timers in it. So a lot of people probably exceeded expectations, and then just veterans without the mud were just so happy.
Yeah,
But I guess because the course was so fast, still the same number of people went out too fast and bonked and whatever.
it happens.
Yeah. But I think it's
Yes.
so cool because, you and I both have done the Cross Florida 200. You, of
Yes.
course, the women's FKT holder,
Thank you.
and me, just a middle of the pack old dude. But so what a cool experience, and that we both got to share that and be there at the beginning of the journey for the quad that did it. That was cool.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. So I have to ask, since we're on the topic of the
Mhm.
200, what was your favorite part, like favorite section of that whole course?
Oh, well, obviously the Ocala National Forest. I have done the Florida Trail through there numerous times, and
Mhm.
honestly, say I've done that section 6 times. This time was the best going through it. I had a little bit of help. John Reed came out and ran
Mhm.
20 miles with me or so. Through the middle of the night. What a trooper. Drove
Yeah.
up from Bradenton to go through the middle of the night with me there. Uh, but that's just magical. And out of the 6 times, that was the one time that I've enjoyed Hopkins Prairie. I,
Ooh, okay.
because it was 35 degrees and I was
Mhm.
looking for the sun. Usually I go through there, it's May or June, and there's no shade. The sun's beating down on me.
Mhm.
This was just awesome, and I love the Ocala National Forest. Though it's special. It's special.
Yeah, for sure.
How
It's
about
probably one of my
yourself? What was your?
I would probably have to say that, or and I'm gonna not remember, sadly, this section, but right before the 88 store,
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
probably all of that, that was,
Yeah,
like, a really high for me,
yeah,
mentally, so, like, that section, I was with a good buddy of mine, and then 2 other runners came out there with me too, and I just it was the best, but
yeah.
I think it was just, like, such a good high for me that it was, of course it was the best.
Yeah, I did that during the daylight, and it was cool. I kinda wanted to stop at the 88 store because all my trips through there, I've never stopped there, but
Oh.
I'm like, "I don't want anything to sidetrack me," I was feeling
Mhm.
good, I wanted to keep going, um, so so I didn't
Very
stop there. One day I will.
One day you will,
Yeah.
yeah. That's awesome, but very cool. So, obviously, we know you're a runner, and you've been running for some time, so why don't you tell us, like, how you got into running? What got you into running back when you first
Oh my
originally started?
gosh, I honestly don't remember getting into running. It was in the early 80s. I got into running. I got into it seriously through triathlons in the late 80s. Uh, but I, I I consider my running to have started in like 1992 because I've run a marathon, at least one marathon every year since 1992.
Okay.
So yeah, that's 30. That's as old as you are. Every year.
I was born in '91, so I
Yeah.
love it.
So
Yes.
so you were
Yeah.
one. So
Yeah.
so I've run at least one marathon every year since
Awesome.
92. So that's so pretty much run every day or 6 days a week. I generally like to goof off one day a week, but pretty much 6 days a week for 30 something years. Uh, my first ultra I ran in 99.
Okay.
So even that is a 26-year journey. Um, and, back, it was so much fun. And those almost feel like a pioneer. I was so much faster and we didn't know what we were doing. And I don't even know how we found these races because there was nothing really, no internet to speak
Mhm.
of. Um, but it was pretty cool. I love the way the technology's changed. Um, Old guys like me, I'd say 50 and up, uh, we didn't have the fancy headlamps and all that. I used to run with a disposable flashlight called a Garrity flashlight. It was kind of bulky, shaped like an L,
Okay.
and fit in your hand. And you ran until it burned out, and then you threw it away and fired up another one. And
That's
it was kind of there. And I ran with a roll of duct tape. And if
okay.
you sit there, twisted your ankle, you just duct tape it and then worry about it when you got done. And that's seriously what we used to do. And also the way music has changed, uh, how you get music now. It's all digital, but I remember doing the Vermont 100 in 2001, and I had cassette tapes, and I'd
Okay.
have to flip the cassette, and
Oh, yeah.
it got tangled up, and I'm trailing a string of tape behind me as it got all screwed up, and I'm trying to put my finger in there and and wind it again, and it's just like people are like, you know, a purist wouldn't use music, and I'm like,
Mm.
well, I'm running 100 miles, and I need something to keep me going.
Yes.
But anyway, and now I'm more. I rarely use music or books. I use it when I'm training all the time, but when
Okay.
the races start, I just I kind of tune into nature, talk to the people around me, and I might use at the beginning. I might listen to a book or listen to a little music, but never more than a couple hours. And like going across Florida, first few miles, yeah, and then no, just
Very cool.
yeah. Are you a music person when you run, or
So when I train, yes,
when
I'm music, podcasts,
yeah,
books, but then for my 200, I actually only listened to music when I was with someone and like when I had that really good high, my buddy was playing music and like we would run a song, walk a song. So that
uh-huh.
like got me moving because I was dying,
Yeah,
not
I
moving
do.
well. But yeah, I didn't listen to much. I think I did have my headphones on I started out by myself, so I had some headphones on, but I was like, I'm not listening to anything until I need it. And
Right.
I don't think I actually played anything until like my friends or my pacers were playing anything.
Yeah, I did a little at the beginning, and then I just,
That's
also, that was
awesome.
one thing less to worry about charging. It seems
Yeah.
like when
Oh
you're
yeah.
doing something like that, the constant is, trying to figure out, how to charge this and charge that. And the only thing I ended up worrying about was charging my watch and my phone.
Yep.
So
Oh yeah. The two essentials. You need those
yeah.
out there.
Hmm.
Especially for this race with navigation, like using your phone. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
so cool that John was out there. He actually came out and helped me through Juniper at night. So he did a night
That's
portion
where
with me
he met
too.
me too.
Yeah.
That's where he met me,
Very cool.
Juniper, at
Yep.
night, and took me all the way through Hopkins Prairie. And
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, he
we,
was great. He actually, I think I reached out to him and he was like, listen, like I actually just took Andy through there. And I was like, oh my gosh, so cool. Like I have so many questions. He's like, well, I'll just come out and run it with you if you want. And I was like, yes, definitely.
yes,
Like
yeah.
I would love you to. So he was out there, which was awesome.
And I mean, he cheats. He cheats because those long legs.
It's to
That,
say, he just,
that is not fair. His
yeah.
his legs are like 4.5 feet long. It's
Yes,
like,
yes. And he just cruises through walking
yep,
on like the one section where the trees are really bad. He was so I was so thankful he was behind me. So he'd be like, okay, big jump or like big hop. I'm like, okay, and
yeah,
yeah, he was great.
very very cool.
Yes, for sure. All right, so enough about that. Thank you so much for sharing your story of getting into it. That's awesome, and it's so
Oh
cool
yeah,
to hear. Honestly, I love the cassette tapes.
oh
Super
yeah,
super cool. I didn't
absolutely,
even
yeah.
think about that. Yeah.
I thought I was big time when I got a cassette player that did auto reverse, so I didn't
Oh,
have to flip the tape anymore. I was like, there was something so cool about setting up those playlists too, and
yeah.
recording it from the stereo onto the
Oh, yes. Yeah.
cassette. It was just kind of cool getting all those, having CDs stacked up everywhere.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Believe it or not, I did do cassettes and I did record cassettes and I had a whole bunch of CDs. But I wanna say, like, when I got oh, probably in, like I don't even remember what grade, but all of that was gone. It was like they had iPods then and, no one
right.
cared about the CDs, so that got
No,
quick. And I wasn't a runner at that point in life, so I had none of that. But super, super cool. And I know we'd reached out previously, and talked, and you have 2 races really that you just did this year. Have you done anything else this year besides those 2?
whew, I so much training. Oh yeah, I did the Monroe 50 miler.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, pushing my cart. Um,
Yes, that's
yeah,
right.
and I love the freedom of pushing the cart. You don't need a crew, but it is significantly harder when you put everything. And at Monroe, it's 50 miler point to point. I had everything that I needed there, so I did not have to stop. Those stops can be refreshing though, so that's makes it a little harder. And then when it wasn't too bad for Monroe, but so I did the Monroe 50 miler on bike path on pavement, then lost 118, which is a lot of pavement, but there's also some trail on there, some gravel with rocks, and because that one was more than twice as far, that cart was so heavy. It was probably weighed 35 pounds for across Florida,
Mm.
all on pavement. And then for Lost, I easily had between 50 and 65 pounds in that cart. Um,
Wow.
and when the wind was coming at me, it was not easy to push.
I can imagine.
So, and then when I got on the rocks, my race also went on the rocks because it was, I'd be doing well and it hit a rock and it'd come to a stop, and it was hard getting it going again. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
and
So
then after Lost, um, so anyway, I finished. Monroe was such good training. The cutoff for 50 miles was 14 hours. And I just wanted to comfortably be under the cutoff because I knew I had Lost coming up, which had an 18-hour cutoff for the 100K. So I did Monroe, and I was just under 13 hours for that, which I was very happy with. My goal was to make the cutoff. And it's so funny though, how tough we are on ourselves. At least I know I am so tough on myself. At mile 32, about 32, Bob Becker comes flying past me. Now, we know Bob is an awesome athlete and a better guy than he is an athlete. He's like, he's a great race director. I think he's a better runner even than he is race director, but he's a better guy than he is either of those things.
Okay.
But he comes flying by me at mile 32. So I called my coach, Lisa Smith Batch, and I said, you need to put me on whatever you got Bob on, because she is his coach too. She goes, well, you are on the same program. I said, no, he's doing something I'm not doing because he's 80 years old and he just came flying past me. And she said, but you're pushing a cart. I said, but he's 80. Goes, but you're pushing a cart. I said, he is 80 years old and he came past me like I was standing still. He beat me by almost an hour. Now, yes, I was pushing a cart, but it's not like the cart didn't have wheels. I mean, and I was ahead of him for 32 miles, but he was gone before I even got to the finish. I couldn't wait to get there and congratulate him. But, we spent a couple miles together and he's like, I was slowing him down. Liz, he's 80.
That's
he's 80,
awesome,
but
though.
he is, I know,
Yeah.
he's no bigger than a minute. I mean, it's like, John Reed cheats because he's got those long legs. Bob cheats because he's got no fat on him. He's tiny. He's not built like a regular person.
Yeah.
He probably even drinks light beer, for goodness sake. I can't compete with that.
That's awesome.
But it was also, I actually did feel kind of bad about, myself as an athlete when he came flying by me. But on reflection, at no point was my goal to beat Bob Becker. My goal was to finish that race in under 14 hours, and I did it in under 13. That's what I should have been celebrating.
Yes.
And anyway, so that one went well, but man, I'll tell you that race beat me up. When I did cross Florida and I finished December 2nd. I think you finished between then and the new year, right? You were December.
Yeah. I think I finished on the 16th.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds about right. So I finished cross Florida and my feet were a little torn up, but I was fine. Not at Monroe. It took me about 10 days for my body to be right. The pavement and the actually running, I'm not much of, I joke. I jog, hike, J-O, jog, H-I-K-E, hike. I put the two together, so I joke. I really do. I don't run. I jog and I hike, do it by feel, but I was so concerned about making the time cutoff at Lost. I had tried Lost in 2024, and I was having a great race. I was having fun, but I didn't make the time cutoff at the 100K. It was at the time 16 hours and it was going to take me about 16 and a half to get there. And so when I knew I wasn't going to finish in time, I backed off, and race director said, hey, what can we do? I said, I need at least, give me 2 more hours, give me 18 hours and I can make that cutoff. So I was so focused on that time cutoff that we got one of those, Florida. When I did cross Florida, it was really cold, and I love to run in the cold. Monroe was cold, went well. Come Lost, which Valentine's Day weekend, February 15th, I think it started, flipping 87 degrees.
Hot.
Yeah, yes. And if you've ever run that Lake Okeechobee Scenic Trail, that's what Lost stands for, Lake Okeechobee Scenic Trail. There is not a bit of shade on there. There's not a tree. There is nothing. And it's 87 degrees, and I was pushing to make that time cut off. So I used all my energy. I took one break for 10 minutes at mile 30. And that was the only break I took because I got to make that cutoff, got to make that cutoff. And I beat the cutoff by an hour, but the effort that I put in there in that heat made my stomach go south,
Oh,
started, started vomiting.
oh,
And, I thought I had it under control when I left the 100K mark, but then I got on that gravel road where every time that cart would hit a rock, it'd come to a stop and I'd throw up.
oh, no.
um, and Amy had come out and to just because she didn't have anything else to do. The checkpoint was closed. We just had a camper set up, so she wasn't giving me supplies or anything because I was doing it with the cart, but she
Mhm,
just came out to cheer me on and to see if I needed to sit in the car and rest. But at mile 67, talked to her and I'm like, I'm going to go. And then as soon as I left, I started throwing up again. And I asked her, I said, honey, have you ever seen me throw up before? And she's like, she listed off like 10 times. So I was like, okay, I guess this isn't as unusual as I thought. But I still kept going for 10 more miles after that. Cause I'm just like, it's cooler. And maybe I'll get it back together.
mhm,
And I think I would have if it hadn't been that the jolting every time I hit one of those rocks. And
mhm,
this was, from 2 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the morning. I was in there and I just wasn't having fun. When I
mhm,
got to 77, had it been a 100 miler with 23 miles, I would have kept going. But do I want to go 23 plus 18,
mhm.
which that's like 40 miles? If it's about somewhere in there. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I do not want to do 40 more miles of this. Plus the fact that I just was so depleted. So I'm
yeah.
like, let's put the cart in there and get the hell out of here, which we did. And then, of course, instantly I was like, I could have kept going. I could have
Oh,
kept going. I should have kept going. And a rational person, of course, a rational person doesn't say I'm going to run around Lake Okeechobee
okay.
18 miles with a cart. That's not what a
Mhm,
rational person does. But a rational person would also say if they were going to do it, we're like, you were throwing up for 15 miles. Of course you quit. You're 63 years old. Um, I will say that at no point during that run did I feel like age played into it.
good.
Lisa Smith Batchen's got me in such good shape and thinking about things differently, thinking, you're not done yet.
Mhm,
And so I don't feel like age was a factor, but I do feel like I was just pushing so hard to make that cutoff. I used so much energy. Um, so when I got done, I was immediately, all right. Well, no, I think I spent one day going, that's it. I'll never do another race again. I'll just be a race director full time and have my baker's dozen races and put other people through this nonsense. I'll let them run the Croom races and all that. But then, so that I gave myself Sunday licking my wounds and in a
mhm.
fetal position. So I think on Monday I start looking at races again, and I'm like, hey, Amy's going to be out of town. So I don't even have to tell her about this, but I told my friends Lewis and Chuan I wanted to help them. I wanted to volunteer at the Space Pirate. Uh, Luis the Ninja Coco, he and I and Michael Alberts are the three that have done the lollipop, the 240-mile
Yes.
lollipop. And um, I was very, very briefly the FKT holder because I was the first one to do it. And they
Okay,
both
very
said,
cool.
they're like, if this old sucker can do it, and I was heavier back then too, if this fat old man can do it, well, I can do it. Turns out they were right. They could, and they could do it faster. But I kind of set the blueprint for him. But anyway, Lewis had done that, and I don't know. We've been buddies. We'd help each other. His race, the Miami 50-50. Have you done that one?
I haven't done it, but I've
You
heard of
got
it.
to. It's so much fun. You just get a
Cool.
partner. You get a partner, somebody that you can stand for, a dozen hours.
Okay.
And yeah, I recommend Gator Ryan. That's who I was a partner with, and he was absolutely awesome.
That's awesome.
Anyway, I've been wanting to either run or help him out. Well, I figured I would have just run Lake Okeechobee. So I would rather volunteer at that race. And I go, all right, what do you need me to do? And he's, well, hemming and hawing. I'm like, no, seriously. And he didn't really need my help. I'm like, I didn't feel like he had it covered.
Mhm.
So I'm like, well, if you don't need my help, can I run it? He's like, oh, sure. And this was Thursday. The race is on Saturday. I had run 77 miles, very hard, pushing a cart, but uh, just, 4 days before that. But the body tricks you. And,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I feel great. My legs feel great. My feet feel great. I can do this. I'm not pushing the cart. I can run 100 miles. Call my great friends, Kirsten Height and Gene Schulk, just the best people. They helped out at Long Haul this year. They're going to be helping at Long Play. And when I did that section of the Ocala National Forest, they crewed me through that.
Very cool.
They're the best. They are the community.
Mm.
Um, and so I'm like, hey, any chance that you have this weekend free? I could use a crew for this because Lewis wouldn't let me push the cart. He said, it says in the rules that everybody needs a crew. And I'm going to say a bad word, those bitches said, yeah, they could do it. So I'm like, oh,
Now
no.
you have to.
Now I have to. So I sign up, and I spent the night in their house in Eustis, in the greater Eustis area. Friday night, Saturday morning, we show up for a 6 a.m. start in Cape Canaveral. And
Mm.
I am feeling froggy, man. I feel good. My legs feel good. Took off like a bat out of hell. And I'm not joking, man. I'm running. I'm running.
Mhm.
Cruised through mile 5 in under an hour. Mile 10 in under 2 hours, mile 15 in under 3 hours. Now, I got to figure that I got to average 18-minute miles to finish this thing. And now I've just done 15 miles at sub 12s. And that's when all of a sudden somebody hooked up a refrigerator to my waist pack. And I felt
Mm.
like I was dragging a refrigerator from that point on. And I just went from sub 12s to bam, 18-minute miles
Mm.
for the rest of it. And my legs felt great. My feet were okay. I do not like pavement.
Mm.
Um, this going across Florida, a whole lot of it was trail. Even the Lake Okeechobee Scenic Trail, a lot of that was trail. Monroe had beat me up because it was all pavement. This was all not only just pavement but concrete.
Mm.
Um, so my feet, but my legs were. I had no speed in them. I say I had no pizzazz, no
Okay.
turnover, but they felt good. They just weren't fast. So I'm like,
Mm.
well, I'll keep doing these 18-minute miles, and I've built up enough time where I can finish doing 18-minute miles as long as I can do that. And turns out I could do it for the last 85 miles. I did take some breaks. So, sprinkle in some 16, 17-minute miles to sit and eat and drink and all
Mhm.
that. And it was on Saturday, which was the bulk of my race. It wasn't too bad heat wise. It probably got up to about 75. There no shade, but 75 is not so bad.
Mhm.
I could handle that. I didn't have any stomach issues, um, and going through the night. And then on day 2, when the sun came up, it was significantly hotter. But at that point, I knew I was going to finish, and I had Gene and Kirsten were switching off with me. They were both dragging me. They were relentless. So funny because at some point Gene says, well, we can do this, and you can manage. Should be able to eat as long as you're taking it easy like that. And I said, whoa. I said, I know I'm going slow. I said, but believe me, I am not taking it easy. This is as fast as I can go. And every step was 100% effort. I mean,
Mm.
I wasn't cruising in. I just had no speed
Mhm.
because, as much as like I said, going across Florida where we didn't have a time You know,
Mhm.
I had I had a time in mind. I wanted to for sure break 84 hours, and 80 was my, like, I'll be thrilled if I can do 80, and I ended up going 77 hours.
Mhm.
But I probably, I didn't even look at, I wasn't even looking at my watch. I had no
Mhm.
idea how long it took me. I just, because my goal wasn't time, it was, you know, point A to point B. That was
Mhm.
my goal on that. Um, so I felt good the entire time. I wasn't redlining there, but at the Space Pirate, I was redlining. Even as slow as I was, and my last miles were significantly slower than they were across Florida. Um,
Mm.
but when I did cross Florida, that's all I did. I hadn't run 77 miles, you know, 6 days prior,
Yes.
and been fooled by, oh, my legs feel great. They did feel great for 15 miles. So, but that was still encouraging because, you know, I don't often run 15 miles. And I took, during that time, I was taking breaks. You know, I was probably doing a 2 minutes running, 1 minute walking, but I didn't have a gym boss or anything. I was just doing it by feel. I was like
Mhm.
pointing at lamp posts and that kind of stuff. And uh, so you know, the lessons on that were, I do a lot better when it's not hot,
Mhm.
and I do a lot better when I don't have time restraints. It's just more fun, and I plan to do more of those adventure things. Like I'm doing Vol State this year. Uh,
Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
the 314 miles across Tennessee.
Yes.
You got 10 days to do it. So as long as you can do 50K a day, you're fine. And
Mhm.
you know, I've got some good coaching on that. I'm really looking forward to that. And the Cowboy 200 is in
Ooh.
September, so I know the nights will be. It's in Nebraska, so I know the nights will be nice and cool. It's on a crushed stone path, so it's the footing will be good. It will be easy on the body. There is an 84-hour time limit on that, which is why I wanted to do cross Florida in
Okay.
84 hours. Now this course will be a lot easier than cross Florida because there's no trail on it, and there's no traffic to worry about,
Mm, that's
and
nice.
it will even be flatter than cross Florida, which is pretty flat route, and
Yeah,
because it's on old rails to trails
that's
thing.
awesome.
And the one that is really intimidating me though is I am going to try the Keys. Um,
Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
is that one that you've done, or
I've
yeah,
crewed it, and I'll
crewed
be
it?
out there this year, but, I'll either be volunteering or like crewing a friend of mine again.
I
Um,
cannot wait to finish it so I can volunteer for Bob every year that he has it, that I am alive, because
yeah.
I love the race, and I love Key West. I am 0 for 2 trying the 100.
Okay.
Um, I've done the race 3 times, and every year I've run 50 miles. Um,
Okay.
Problem is, 2 times I was signed up for the 100 and dropped at 50. One
Okay,
year
okay.
I started at 50. I did the 50 mile, started at the 50-mile mark, and ran to the finish. And I had a
Mm.
blast. It was so much fun. It was like, because I felt like, I'm only doing 50. Only.
Yeah.
I said only in 50.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's not normal. But, you know, I knew you would appreciate that because you're not any more normal than I am.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's so funny. When we talk, I'm sure you feel the same way when we talk about running. We're like, yeah, I'm only doing a 50 mile or
Right, right.
50K, and they're like, only, and I'm like, oh
Only.
yeah, like
Hmm.
it's only a yeah.
Yeah, just get an injury and start coming back, and you'll realize that you won't say only a
Only,
5K for a while, but then you'll
yeah,
slip back into it. Yeah. So I
so
am,
true.
I'm intimidated. I really want to finish the Keys, but I'm so bad on pavement and I'm so bad in heat. Um, but you know, I want to get that one done. I crewed it the very first 2 years that they had it.
Okay.
And the first year I crewed this young lady from Pennsylvania, Alicia Springman, and she won the race overall. So,
Heck yeah.
so I'm crewing, and there was another gentleman crewing with us also. So I ran a lot with her, and I also crewed. We did, and then the next year I had a buddy, Rob Cowan, come from California, and
Okay.
he was fourth overall and won the Masters. So I'm
Wow.
like, this race is easy. No, it's
It's so
anything but, yeah, it is anything but easy. That heat is a real thing.
yeah.
Uh, and I love it though. I love the race. I love the water. I love the point to point. I hope I can finish it and never have to run it again. And
Yeah.
that could be a course marshal or whatever Bob needs. I will do it. I volunteered for him the last 2 years at Daytona. I have
Very
a
cool.
blast. He's a good one to volunteer for. So anyway,
Now,
that's the
do you have
one
any
that's intimidating me.
I would say, do you have
Oh,
any race before that? Or are you just
um,
focusing on the keys right
I'm
now?
gonna do the skunk ape. Signed up for
Oh,
the 100 right now, but it'll be either the 100 or 50. I'm sure
okay.
Lisa will try to talk me into the 50, but I'm signed up for the 100. And,
Okay.
that's our buddy Joe Fuller.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
he's top notch. He's a good dude.
He's great.
Um, and I like that trail. That's part that we did on across Florida also.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and it's a very nice part. I like that quite a lot. That Marjorie Harris Greenway and
Mhm.
Santos and all that. It's it's a fun. It's good. I like that. And I don't know. I haven't even read if it's a out and back or um, what it
Yeah, I'm not
is.
too sure either.
Yeah, I'll find
You'll
out.
find out. Yeah, you'll find out.
Amy will tell me. She
Yeah.
reads the. I'm a, as a race director, I'm still. You'd think I'd read every bit of every email, and I don't. But
Amy
I'm
let
good
you
at
know,
course
though.
navigating, and I do
Yeah.
download when they have the courses, on Caltopo or whatever I do, and I don't ever get very lost. I'll get off course a little bit. Um, like I added 4 miles during cross Florida.
Oh,
Um,
no.
it's no big deal. Because one of was right before the highway to hell, so
Okay.
yeah. And I had done that section getting to there a couple of times before, and so I wasn't paying attention. I thought I knew it. I know this turn, and then I look at the Caltopo, and I'm like, shoot, I turned too early. But at
Oh.
that point, I was like, I'm not going back. I hate to backtrack,
Mhm.
So I'm like, I can make this work, and there's people's property, and I'm like, all I got to do is climb this fence, and I'm like, this is Second Amendment area here. I'm not climbing any fences. So I end up having to go a couple miles out of the way there.
Okay.
Um, but I did make it work. And that was 2 miles that I added. And then the other one was leaving uh, Rodman Dam. You go on
Okay.
that road, that paved road that seems like it's going to last forever
Mhm.
until you hit the highway, and
Yep.
you can go straight across the highway or left across the highway, and you're on course. What you can't do to be on course is go to the right. I turned to the right, and a
No.
mile, yeah, a mile down, I look and I'm like, shoot. Although I didn't say shoot, I said
Yeah.
no, yeah, and I'm like, there's nothing to do but turn around and go back.
Oh,
So there was my other 2 miles. And that was just being stupid.
yeah.
That one was probably sleep deprivation there,
Mm.
just like, anyway, but so it's, I will, but I had the course downloaded. And so if that is offered, I will do that. So I'll be fine on Skunk Ape.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And hopefully and I'm pretty sure, like, it's labeled out real well, and if I remember correctly, it is he gives you a GPX file.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So I'll be fine. I know how to use those.
Very cool, very
Yeah.
cool. Oh, shoot. Alright, so next, a
Next.
question.
All right.
Um, with the loss, we had talked about this briefly, like, in a little bit of a conversation, just, like, dealing
Right.
with DNFs. So, you had mentioned, it was a hard one, and
It
it's
was. Yeah.
none of them are ever easy, you know what I mean? So I completely understand that. What do you think
Yeah.
the biggest lesson learned? Because then you went out and went after the next race.
Well,
So
yeah.
what do you think was your biggest lesson between the two of those?
Well, the first of all, it's going into it with the right attitude. That's the biggest thing. And it's amazing that, after we talked, I listened to your podcast, I think with Heidi. Is that
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
and she does a podcast where she focuses on DNFs.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes. Yes.
like,
Yes.
that timing was perfect. So and, what you need to know is a DNF doesn't make you a bad person. That's not how you
No.
should ever judge yourself. But that is exactly how I judge myself.
Mhm.
It's so unkind
Mhm.
sometimes. But I would never be that way to anybody else. I'm
Mhm.
like, you got out there and you signed up for the race. You're ahead of most of the people right
Mhm.
there. So going into it, you really, if you're not just in it for the adventure and for the experience, then you're already setting yourself up for a potential devastating failure.
Mhm.
And anyway, that race that lost because I created the kart division. Okay. I have run that race. I had run around the lake 4 different times
Okay.
before, and I just didn't want to do that to Amy because it's not that fun to crew. There's no stores to stop at. I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere. So I'm like, I want to do the race, but I don't want to have to find a crew. So
Mhm.
how can I do that? And I got with the race director and I said, listen, I'm willing to get a cart. And he goes, and so together, Brendan Barry and I, feeding, shooting ideas off of each other, we created the RPC, Runner Propelled Cart Division. And so I really wanted to finish.
Mhm.
I was totally cool with my DNF in 2024 because that time cutoff was just too aggressive for me pushing a cart.
Mhm.
Um, Most of the between the start and the 100K, where the only time cutoff is, was into the wind. So when you're
Mhm.
pushing that thing into the wind, it's hard. And I felt like I was doing great. I just wasn't fast enough. I wanted to make sure that did not happen this year. So I was constantly looking at my watch. Made sure to keep pushing, and made that cutoff. And I'm like, I created this cart division. I wanted to be the first one to finish, or at least I wanted to finish.
Mhm.
The first year, there were 4 of us signed up. None of us made the cutoff at the
Mhm.
100K. Uh,
Wow.
well, this year, there were 2 of us, myself and Dawn Lombardo. And Dawn has done Vol State. She's done hundreds. She's tougher than a $2 steak. And
Mhm.
this is like reinforced with rebar. I mean, she was able to complete it, and I was so proud of her. And we ran a lot together early. But when I took my 10-minute break, she left me and I never saw her again.
Mhm.
um, and that was, like I said, mile 30. Um, so, I know it can, but it wasn't my skill set. And, you know, particularly if you're doing something that's not your skill set, then you got to be kinder to, you have to be kind to yourself. I have to be kind to myself.
Mhm.
Um, so, but I'm not kidding. It just didn't sit well with me. That DNF, it still isn't, I'm still not over it.
Yeah.
The, so happy that I finished the Space Pirate, but it's not like it didn't erase the DNF. That was the hope. It would erase it, but it didn't. I
Mhm.
mean, I get that I did as well as I could do.
Mhm.
Um, I dropped because I was vomiting and I couldn't figure out how to stop vomiting.
Mhm.
But still, I thought, well, there's got to be something I could have done. Maybe, maybe not. Um, as I was doing Cross Florida, I was like, I'd already convinced myself, all right, I'm not doing Keys because this is hot. I can't do heat. I'm not going to do Skunk Ape. I'll just volunteer. Um, that's and I felt like that. And I finished on Sunday, and I still felt like that on Monday. And today's Friday. By Tuesday, I was like, told Amy, I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking I do want to do Keys. She
Yeah.
goes, yes, that's why I didn't even say anything, because she goes, I know you. You've retired from running so many times that I'm like, yeah, I've got to give it a try.
Mhm.
And then Skunk Ape, I still don't know what I'm going to do there. Um, I just don't know, which means I'll probably try the 100. But if I do, I do have to give myself permission to, make maybe 50-mile as one of my goals.
Yeah.
I cannot, on those two races particularly, I just can't make it an all out goal to cross that
Mhm.
finish line, because it may turn out that anything can happen. Um, but like when I tried Moab last year, 240,
Mm.
I trained for it. I was in great shape. I DNF'd at mile 126, and I was okay because look, I did 126 miles in the desert and in the mountains. 126 miles is a long way. I just sleep deprivation got me.
Mhm.
I needed more sleep, but I didn't really have time for more sleep. But I did learn that you have to take care of yourself along the way, or else it
Mm.
doesn't matter. Because if you don't take care of yourself along the way, your chances of finishing are greatly reduced.
Mhm.
So that's what we did during Space Pirate. Is Gene and Kirsten kept telling me, you already said that one of the reasons you didn't finish Lost was you didn't stop enough on the way. You didn't recharge, refresh. And I gave into them. I said, you're
Mhm.
right. I'm gonna, and then as it got cooler, as it got later, then they let me start skipping stops. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, look, I just get me water. I'm going to keep going. But it wasn't until they were sure. And to avoid a DNF, I'd say get a really good crew. And it turns out that me solo, not such a good crew. Me with Amy or Gene and Kirsten, yeah, that's a good combination. So I wish I had some great advice on how to deal with DNFs. Um, I need to figure that out, because if I'm going to keep trying epic things, which I do want to do,
Mhm.
then there's more DNFs in my future. I mean, unless what am I going to do? 10Ks with no cutoff? I'm not. I
Yeah.
want to do some cool stuff. I love going. Longer. I need to look for things without a cutoff or very generous cutoff, and hopefully where they won't be roasting hot. I mean, we know the Keys is going to be roasting hot,
Mhm.
so um, this time of year, I don't do any double digit runs in the daylight. I do them all at from any time between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Most of my runs are at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Mhm.
Because I try to avoid heat as much as possible. Well, for Keys, I'm actually going to be training in the heat of the day. As much as I hate to do it, because I just feel like it takes a little from my soul every time I do one of those really hot races. But electrolytes usually get me. Then that's what got me both my DNFs at the Keys, is I started cramping
Okay.
up,
Mm.
and you know that's not any fun when you get the aliens in your legs and they just
Mm.
start your muscles are going every which way. So I have to try to avoid that. Um, and then I can concentrate on cooler things, and cooler in temperature, and I can be a volunteer for those hotter races.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
I mean, and
Def
here I am, the race director for a race called the Sweat, Swat, and Swear,
Yeah.
and we tell people you will do all three.
Oh,
And
yeah.
pretty much, we have people go, well, I don't really swear. And I'm like, yeah, you probably don't swat on a regular basis either, but you're going to do both.
Oh gosh. That's incredible though. And I'm sure everyone can agree with this. Like DNFing is not something that I think many of us ever truly get through and understand and like are ever okay with,
Yeah,
even I know like you mentioned Heidi because they talk a lot about DNFs and like not hitting your goal, which
right,
is, you know, not the same, but kind of the same as DNFing. And I've experienced that as well, is where like you just get so disappointed and you're like, but you did something that majority of these people
right.
in the world do not do. And you should just be proud that you accomplished such a goal. And even if it, didn't go the way you went. But what a redemption for you to come back the next week and do.
It was pretty. It was pretty cool. It was pretty special.
Yeah.
Because a race turned out it was really hard, and it was hard because of all the miles the week before.
Mm,
It was a dumb thing to do. It was dumb, but it didn't mean I didn't have to do it. I had to do it, and it really showed me. I was so proud of the way my legs worked and the way my mind was so on point. And when issues presented themselves, I was able to solve the puzzle that
mm,
I couldn't solve at Lost. I was able to solve that puzzle, the puzzle that I didn't solve at Moab. Um, so it's that was really cool, and I'm glad I did it. And as far as like, I've always set up 3 goals for myself,
mhm,
an A, B, and a C goal. And gosh, I used to always hit the A goal, and now, uh, now I'm thrilled if I can hit the C goal. But the C goal um, should be to give it my best.
mhm,
That's what it should be. And then there really isn't a DNF
mhm.
because at Lost, let's face it, I gave it my best.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I really, there's no dishonor in that, but it, maybe I'll get over it. I don't
It
know.
still
Maybe
eats you
I
up a
will.
little bit, I can tell, and
Yeah. I mean, I got over it for Moab and both of my times that I've DNF'd keys. I mean, I got over it because it didn't really matter what I wanted. It's what I could do. And
mhm,
I do feel like at Lost, I could have kept going. It just would have meant, okay, I'm going to have to be okay with throwing up
mhm,
continuously. Because Amy's like, you got plenty of time. And I'm like, "Ah, but the desire to put my body through that. And, who knows what would have happened
mhm,
if I had depleted myself more than
mhm,
I already had. I'm glad that I didn't have that same issue at Space Pirate. I'm glad I
mhm,
did, and I'm glad I was able like I said, solve the puzzles. Solve the puzzle of eating, solve the electrolyte puzzle. And I never cramped. Yeah, my feet hurt real bad because they
mhm,
were on pavement, but I knew it was just pain and not injury.
mhm,
And sometimes that pain will get you through a mile. It's just like, um, and yeah, nothing was really helping. THC capsules were usually will work, and I do have a prescription for that. Um, Ibuprofen, it was just like, okay, I had to kind of like partner with the pain. Like, all right,
mhm.
it's not an injury, I can tell, but it sure hurts a lot.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the nice thing about that was, um, and salty britches, the lube that I use and the one that we use at long haul, it's very viscous, good for those to anti chafing.
Mhm.
And when I, when I got done with the race, it finishes on the beach in Jensen Beach. I made a beeline for the Atlantic Ocean, and Salty Britches even they put a picture of me on their social media of me going in the Atlantic, and the waves are crashing around me, and boy, that made my feet feel so good. And I
Oh,
also can thank Salty Britches because I don't have any chafing, because I know that because I was in salt water
yeah.
immediately upon finishing, and I didn't have any pain there. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
hilarious, and
it
that's
was.
awesome.
Yeah. I'll tell you, if you do something like a Lake to Ocean or Daytona, the Keys, Space Pirate, that plunge in the ocean at the end kind of makes it worthwhile.
Mm,
And I had a figurine, kind of like a voodoo doll with
mhm,
me, and my whole thing was I'm going to dunk this figure in the ocean at the end, and I had my dunk thing in mind, and so I was able to dunk the the voodoo doll at the end as well as my feet. So, and off air, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But
For sure, yes,
yeah,
I have so many questions. Very cool though. But what an epic start to the year. And
Yeah.
I truly wish you the best
Oh,
in
thank
this
you.
race. I think you'll do amazing. And you have this arsenal from the DNF at the Walls that I think
Yeah.
will push you in this 100 for the keys a little more than you think it could.
Yeah, I think it will, partly because I do strongly desire to help out as a course marshal or something there, because it's an iconic race. I
Mhm.
like it. Bob is my ultra running man crush. No, I have
Yes.
no I have no compunction about saying that. He's just awesome.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I do want to just put a stamp on that. I want that damn buckle. I want
Heck
that
yeah.
buckle, you know.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
now, Liz, you've done some of my Croom races, right? You have won
Yeah.
some of my Croom
Yeah.
races,
Yeah. I've
which,
done two of them,
yeah, the
I think.
Zoom
And
maybe
Fools.
and the Fools,
Yep.
yeah. So those are that was where I cut my teeth. You know, that was the Fools. That's how I became a race director. The people that were
Very
directing
cool.
the Fools back in 2004 said, we're not going to do it anymore. If you want the race to continue, you have to be the race director. And I knew nothing about it, nothing
Mhm.
about race directing. So I did it by myself the first year. It could have and should have been a disaster, but it wasn't.
That's
It,
awesome.
yeah, I got lucky because the weather was really nice and people had
Mm,
a good time. But I also knew I was in way over my head. So
mm.
that's why I went to Jim Hartnett at Tampa Races and I said, "Hey, I got this race," but I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't even have coolers. I borrowed coolers. I borrowed tables that first year, and shoot, now I have so many coolers. My coolers have
Yeah,
coolers. You
you're
know,
cool.
you want
Yeah.
to host a wedding? Yeah, I got tables for you. So we so anyway, I certainly hope to see you out there at Croom some more because all these other races it kind of started with and not just for me but for a lot of people with for
Yeah.
Jeff Stevens and Mikey B. I helped them all along the way, and as I was helped along the way, and that's I don't know, you give to others, you give to
Mm,
yourself, and
for sure. And I have to tell you, Croom Fools, I'm pretty sure that was I know it was my first race. I think it's Croom's Fools was my first ultra. And then Croom Zoom is the one I placed first female, I think, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
I think
Or I
so.
have them
Yeah.
backwards. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I fell in love with the Croom. Like the whole it was just an amazing course. And it was my first trail run ever. I've
Oh
never ran trail
yeah.
before. So I learned real quick like, oh, you need to actually
Yeah.
run trail.
Yeah. Running at Croom was my first trail running, and
So
I was
cool.
amazing. It was like,
Yes.
man, this is amazing, and I really went years without running on the road again. Now I run on the road again, um, and I enjoy it. I don't enjoy 100 miles of pavement so much. And I guess at Lost, I'll be doing 300. Excuse me, Fall State, I'll be doing 314 miles of pavement. But at 40 miles or so in a day, I'll be soaking my feet,
Mhm.
and I won't have to be redlining. I'll be doing a hell of a lot of walking. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Completely different, but I've heard
Yeah.
so many things about this race. I will have so many questions after.
Oh,
It
I can't
sounds
wait. Yeah,
amazing.
I
Yeah.
cannot wait. Me too. I've heard so many things about how it restores people's faith in humanity when they get out there, and I'm going to experience it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I
And
won't have.
I'll
Yeah,
tell you right
my
now, after the race, if you want to come on and we'll do a recap, I am so down because
oh cool.
it's a very different race. I know a few people that have
Yeah,
had desires to do it, and I'm like, it's just wild. It's a completely different type of race out there.
true adventure, and I'm going to go out there and I at Lost I talked to Dave Jones, I talked to
Mm,
Bernadette, um, I talked to Don Lombardo,
okay.
and they're just like, just don't try to plan everything. Go out there with a credit card and a pair of shoes. So, you know, two pairs of shorts, two pairs of socks, two pairs of liners, 2 shirts and a credit card, you know,
There you
and
go.
an umbrella.
Yes.
Yeah.
So cool. But that's gonna be amazing. So I cannot wait to hear about it. And something I like, I know you have a lot going on because you have a race this weekend. So I'll let you go soon. But I have one question I'd like to ask everyone I have on the podcast, or at least I try to. So, and you've kind of mentioned this, but you haven't talked too much about it. But I instantly fell in love with my first race at Croom, and then truly fell in love with the community. Everyone there was so
Right.
nice. I remember talking to you briefly, and I remember talking to the people there, like everyone's so nice. So I got more involved and, just fell in love with the community aspect. And that is hence why I have the Tribe of Runners podcast. So with all that being said, what to you does the word tribe mean in the running world?
Oh my goodness. Um, well, community, and I love it, the tribe, because when we're in the tribe, we it's like, to me, like Key West, you check your preconceived notions, you check your prejudice at the door. There's no place for
Mm-hmm.
it. Helping others, rejoicing in others, that's what it is to me. I mean, rejoicing in having an 80-year-old man pass you at mile 30 and going, man, that guy's something. And by and large, that's what we do. And we cheer, we want our tribe to be, to go on, to just keep, go on. And, that will really help to look at it that way, because, a DNF can be a reset. It's not did not finish. It's did not finish this one particular race, but
Mm-hmm.
I will finish the game. So,
Yes.
uh, boy, I wasn't prepared for that question, but I love it, and
Yeah.
I should be, because that's one of my things. I've started listening to your podcast and I love them. So anyway, I hope that's a halfway decent answer,
It's a
but
great
yeah,
response. Yes, for sure. And I love it too. And it is so true. I've met so many people, and obviously I have people on the podcast, and I could not expect it to be the way it is. It's honestly like
yeah,
so beautiful. And I come from a very small town and came to Florida. It was completely eye-opening.
uh
And
huh,
then truly like just didn't really find people I felt comfortable around or really like linked up well. And then I met this ultra community, and I was like, these are my people. Like, we're all
there.
crazy. We're doing these wild things, but
You look at it,
ev-
yeah, it's so
everyone is
easy.
so supporting.
Yeah,
Like you mentioned,
yeah,
like you seeing Bob, an 80-year-old man out there, and just like go.
yeah.
And we can bring this up now. Obviously, this will be posted a little later, but Deanna just crushed
Mhm.
the FK Florida Trail
Oh
FKT.
yeah, yes, and
Insane. And so many people like reach out to me and they're like, dude, is this something you're interested in? I'm like, hell no, but she crushed it. Like,
she
this is
was
amazing.
amazing, and
Oh my
so,
gosh.
and the support that she had, oh my goodness. I mean,
Insane.
I don't know about you, if you got to see her. I wanted to go out there so
I did go
badly.
out there.
I wanted to, but I got this race. I did Space Pirate. I was just doing Lost. I could not do it. I couldn't
Yeah,
get out there. But I followed it every day, and it was so great seeing
it
the
was.
support. I mean, but you kind of reminds me of you. She's just such an awesome lady. I mean, how can
She
you
is.
not cheer for her?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm the biggest cheerleader. Like, she I'm a big cheerleader for her because she's female too. Like
Yeah.
nothing against the men, nothing,
Oh
no,
gosh, no.
nothing.
Yeah.
But she crushed those
She
records, and
crushed it
for me,
all.
I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
like go.
I know,
And
right?
yeah, it was a fantastic. And like when I was out there, truly was taken away by how positive she was. Like she got lost a few times when I was with her, and she handled it so well, and it was just amazing to see her push. I was only with her for 3 days, but it was so
Only.
amazing to
Yeah.
witness.
Only.
And yeah, it was, I'm home creeping on her, like making sure, oh, like, does she need any help? Is she good to go? So it was so cool to see. But again, that's a part I've seen you cheering her on too. So I knew you were watching, but
Oh, I
it's just,
was.
we're
And
all this amazing tribe, and the Florida community is definitely something special.
yeah, it is. And, because you look at people that you wouldn't maybe necessarily be friends with, but it is one of the few places where we bury politics and we bury all that other stuff, and we just get raw,
Hmm.
and I love it. I love it. So,
Yeah.
and I love being a part of it. I love, you know, when I can introduce people to special places in the forests and all that, and I just really it's where I feel so blessed.
Mhm.
You know, when the corporate world just beats me down and beats me down, and then I come out and do this,
Oh, yeah.
and I get the energy that I have to spend elsewhere.
For
So,
sure, yeah. And truly, thank you so much for everything you do for the community because not only do you do the races, I know you're out there volunteering all the time and linking people up, which is amazing. So, thank you truly for all you
yeah,
do. And again, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
oh, my pleasure.
I'll get your information. I'll put all the links so people can go check out your
Cool.
races for sure.
Excellent.
Heck
Excellent.
yeah.
Yes.